Hey, welcome back to We Were Gamers, a podcast about having been gamers, right, JJ?
That's right, Andrew. We are two people, adults, who we used to play games a lot more when we were younger. And now we, being busy adults with busy lives, try to find time to play some games. And this is a great place for us to talk with each other and sort of keep our hobby alive.
We've talked with each other 8 times about having been gamers. And all over the place, on an old microphone in an old office, on a new microphone in a new echoey office, Boston, all over the place.
Yeah.
Trying to keep up with being adults, but still playing games. The echo chamber returns, by the way.
I noticed a little bit, but I don't, maybe it doesn't come through that much in the in what the people get, hopefully.
I hope so, and it won't be forever, as the office is now empty, and I have started working on putting new things in it.
Being a homeowner never ends the amount of work, Andrew. I know this, and I know you know it.
I, at one point in being a homeowner, made a list of everything I wanted to do to this house that we purchased. Katie, my wife, and I purchased a fixer-upper back in 2014, and I stopped the list, handwritten list, after it hit 2 college-ruled pages.
I was just going to say, did you just stop and then weep silently in a corner about how many things were bad? And you just were never going to fix them all?
Oh, I openly wept in the middle of an empty room.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
I did not purchase, or I did not intend to purchase a fixer-upper, and there is still a long list of things that I would like to change and fix or repair or redo or undo about my house. I can only imagine how bad the list would be for one that knowingly needed work.
It's all part of the great game, as they say.
They do say that. They do say that.
I guess the big news of the week is that Game of Thrones ended last night.
Yes, it did.
And it was epic, and JJ and I really want to talk about it. So what we're going to do is do our normal podcast now, and then do a bonus podcast about Game of Thrones, so people that haven't seen it can listen to it later.
Yeah, we will not talk about it in this episode, so don't worry. We're not going to mention anything spoilery or whatever. And then the episode where we do talk about it will be named something Game of Thrones, and then we will only talk about it. So that whole episode will be spoilers.
We're going to be polite and put it in a different place. The other big news of the week, JJ.
Yes.
Steam sale.
I know, Andrew. Have you seen those videos? The ones, Are You Ready for a Miracle is playing in the background, and there's a bunch of hilarious, Steam price tags flying out of various places.
No, I have not.
Oh, well, we'll link one of these to the people. There's a pretty funny one that I've seen this season. So, yeah, it's, Andrew, are you ready for some miracle prices?
Well,
on video games?
I don't think the prices are as miracle-y as they used to be, but maybe we should do a rundown on what Steam is, although you'd have to be living under a rock not to know what Steam is.
Yeah, especially if you used to be gamers like us, you, I'm sure, already know what Steam is. It is a digital storefront to purchase video games.
Literally, that's it.
Yep.
Or used to be it.
Correct. It seems to be expanding in weird ways now, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's still a program, or ostensibly a program, on your PC, or Mac, or Linux that you run, right? And it pops up a web page or something inside it, and it's just a list. It's like, boom! Here's a database of games. Here's how much they cost. Buy it from us.
And you get to have a library of those games sit on the internet forever and download it. Forever, ostensibly.
Well, until they take the Steam servers down, which I guess, could be forever. It sure would make a lot of people mad if they took them down, that's for sure.
Well, as we know, the archive of the internet does make it so things never really truly die. So I'm not concerned about
That's right.
my digital products lasting at least my lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
Although they've said before you die, make sure to change your account information so that it's not in your name when you pass away, so that it's in your child's name.
Or your heirs, or...
Yeah, because if it's still in your name when you pass away, it all goes bye-bye.
Oh, they can't give it to other people.
Right.
Interesting, yes. I never had thought about that. That makes sense.
Digital record-keeping, digital heirlooms have become quite the sticky topic in terms of licenses, because you don't really buy games anymore. You can't pass them down physically. So licensing and accounts, like your Gmail account or your Facebook account, all these sorts of things are not your property.
Andrew, who's going to run my Twitter after I die?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Technically, Twitter.
Yeah, that's a deep thought.
Deep thought. Yeah. Are we doing Hitchhiker's Guide this week? I'm not prepared for that.
Okay, 42.
Steam sales, though. Okay, so Steam is a digital platform.
Right.
We'll start off with Steam sales. So every season, let's say, spring, winter, fall, summer, they don't go in that order, but
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Steam does a sale, and they put all these digital titles up for less. They say, hey, you know what? You don't pay full price. You play 20 to 80% off. It has become quite the meme for people to show how empty their digital wallets are after a Steam sale.
Yes, people will put in large amounts of money in anticipation of the sale, sort of into the, prepay. You can buy gift cards and stuff like that, or just, straight up give them money and then just sit there waiting to click on all the deals.
Well, I myself have been victim of hundreds of "that's a good enough deal" quotes.
Andrew, it's only $5 sometimes. What? I could buy that for $5. That game takes 80 hours to finish. It's only $5. What a deal.
What a deal indeed, 300 times.
Yes. And that's the insidiousness of the Steam sale. You're like, all of these are so good.
Oh, they are so good. And Steam sales in themselves used to be kind of a game. Literally sometimes. Sometimes they had games attached to them where you could earn discounts or cards or all sorts of digital items. Or they used to do something called a flash sale. So every 2 or 3 hours, 4 games would be even more deeply discounted. You better log in every few hours just to check and see which ones were on sale again.
Right.
Or each day there used to be a different game that was on sale, or different franchises that are more % off than they were yesterday and won't be again. Even though if you've done a Steam sale before, you know at the end of it, they're all the lowest price they were the whole sale. It was a thing. Really hype.
Yeah, they tried to make it something you really want to check in on, or something you want to look at, go back to frequently. But ever since they instituted the refund policy, which by the way is great, we shouldn't disparage it, it seems like they've changed their approach to the sales. Those sort of timed discounts and stuff seem to not work anymore, because their refund policy will allow you to refund a game if the price of the game goes down. So you could say, I paid too much for this. I want to buy it again at a cheaper price. Refund me the higher price that I paid.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now, of course, there's a window, right? I think there's a certain number of days that you're allowed to make that refund decision. And then if you've played a game for less than 2 hours, also is part of the decision. So if you played it longer than 2 hours and you've owned it for less than a certain amount of time, it's a pretty generous amount of time, though. It's like 90 days or something. Quite a long time.
Wow, so you can buy a whole bunch of stuff during a sale and then refund what you didn't like.
Correct, yeah. Which is a great thing for consumers, right? That's awesome. More reasonably than just saying you didn't like it. Well, if you didn't like it, that's kind of on you. But if you buy a game and it straight up doesn't work on your computer, right? You buy it and it's like, for whatever reason, every time I open this game, it just crashes. Well, that sucks. Now you paid, who knows, $50 for a game that doesn't work at all. You have $0 worth of game and $50 worth of spent. That sucks. So, getting a refund in that situation seems really reasonable. That would be the reason you would request a refund from a store, right? You buy a thing, it doesn't work at all. Screw this, return it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's great, but the side effect has sort of made these sales a lot less fun.
Well, so if you didn't catch what JJ and I were talking about, this sale and the sale previous to this one, the spring sale, have basically confirmed that all the prices for the sale are set on the first day, and that's the deal. So you get to find out what it all is, and you have until a week later to purchase the games at that price. And people are a little miffed about it, I think, because of the lack of interaction or the lack of hypeness. It's just kind of what everybody else does, and it has lost their signature interactivity.
The thing about the Steam sales used to always be there would be lots of discounts. Everything would be very cheap in some respects. And you'd be like, oh, wow, look at all these great prices on games. But if you were a crafty consumer, you would wait and not buy anything until the deepest discount, the flash sale or the daily sale happened, right? Because those you were guaranteed to get the best deals. And so if your game went up for a flash or a daily sale, that would be when you should buy it, not during the rest of the sale time. Or if it didn't go up for a flash or a daily sale, then on the very last day, you make all the purchases. But they've kind of moved away from that sort of fun, kind of gamey aspect of it seems. And now they're just like, hey, here are the prices, pay them, or don't.
Now, Steam is owned by a company called Valve, and for those of you that don't know Valve, they produced Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Team Fortress, most recently Dota 2, and many other smaller games. Portal, yeah, Portal 2, all sorts of fun games like that. So they're a large producer. Some people wonder if maybe their foray, let's call it, into other markets has caused them to be less willy-nilly about their finances. And I mean that in that Steam was a platform. It was a cool extension of a video game company into the commercial market and putting out their ideal for how consumers should purchase their games and other games and being the most fair to a consumer in accessibility. And I think Steam you could credit with really bringing back the PC platform.
I think it is unquestionably the largest digital storefront on the internet. I don't think there's any competition. They're the first. They're the biggest.
Props to them for all these things, but most recently they've started to reach into other markets like hardware with Steam boxes or Steam controllers or working on VR.
That's right.
All sorts of other systems, as well as hosting $1 million tournaments for their game Dota 2. And I have to wonder, and others wonder, are they overreaching? Are they putting themselves in too many places at once? Are they reaching into markets they really don't have a grasp on? And is it going to hurt the platform that we most enjoy them for?
That's really interesting. I know people have made the actual observation, it's not an assumption anymore, that them working on Steam has sort of diluted themselves as a video game publisher. Like Valve basically doesn't make games anymore, right? I know Dota 2 came out relatively recently, but that's kind of it in terms of Valve, like actual video games made at Valve.
Right.
In the last long period of time, right? It's been 6 years or something since they've made something else.
Yeah, and they've gotten involved in other digital items too, like a streaming service that no one uses.
Right.
Home entertainment, streaming kind of
boxes,
things. Yeah.
Little PC boxes that you can hook up to your TV, which sort of, help people push their digital storefront, right? Buy games for your PC. Well, you have this little PC, hook it up to your TV. Now you can play on your big TV instead of on your computer monitor. But, you wonder, right, are these other things they're doing taking their focus away from Steam as their, the actual storefront as their thing? I think it's interesting that you focus it that way, because a lot of people in the past have focused it the other way. Is Steam taking away the focus from the video games? And I think the answer to that question is definitely yes. And maybe now the answer to your question is also yes. It's a really good observation. I hadn't thought about it like that before.
Yeah, I just have the fear.
Yeah, I think the evidence sort of points to yes on that one, at least a little bit.
And I think it's also evidenced in the fact that they don't have the clout they once used to have. Ubisoft and EA and a couple other companies don't even use them as a storefront anymore. They force you into their own version of things, as well as the rise of GOG, goodoldgames.com.
Yeah, I think maybe Steam still is the biggest player in the field, right? It would be like comparing the Amazon as a digital seller of stuff compared with other websites that also sell stuff. Amazon sells the most stuff, but the other websites don't do $0 worth of business, right? They're still in business.
Yeah, and now the Windows 10 store has cropped up.
And, each of these stores sort of have their own kinds of exclusives and their own things you can only get through them. EA's Origin store is the only way to buy EA games now. You can't get them off Steam anymore. The Ubisoft store has all of Ubisoft's games, although also some of them get sold through Steam still too, but then it launches the Ubisoft store, which is like a really stupid thing. And the Windows 10 store has games from the Xbox and the Xbox One that you can't get anywhere else. It's the only place to get them.
And you buy them once and play them both places.
And you have to have Windows 10 installed. So if you still have Windows 7 or whatever others, 8, whatever other Windows versions are out there, you can't use it.
TS.
Yeah. So, it's a marketplace, right? There's business happening out there, which is good, I think. And it, like you said, it's a really great time to be a PC gamer. There's a lot of great stuff going on. And these sales are one of the reasons why, at least you and I, do most of our gaming through Steam.
I can definitely credit Steam with basically drawing me away from the interest in purchasing another platform. I know for a fact that most games that people talk about at the end of the year when their best list comes out or anything like that, I'm going to be able to eventually pick up on Steam for $5.
The stuff about them being only $5 though isn't as true as it used to be. That's a bummer too. I think that's part of the reason why this sale bums me out.
I think it's a matter of time thing. We got into the system, we played games early, we didn't buy a ton at the beginning, and the time has come where we've now purchased most games that are 4 or 5 years old, and a lot of the AAA titles are not lowering their prices as quickly as they used to in the past. Kind of, it was like a race to the bottom in Steam sales before. It was like, sure, Assassin's Creed is $5, so put everything else out there for $5, and now it's, Skyrim Complete Edition is 6 years old or whatever, and it's still $15 on sale. So, we don't have to put our games down that low. If these other games are still commanding these prices, we'll just keep our price up. And so the time range is extending, I think, for things to push down towards the bottom, especially since the market has fractured a little bit.
I think it's interesting that you bring up Skyrim, because Skyrim actually, I want to talk about that specifically. Their publisher is doing something a little bit shady with regards to the sale. So during E3, we mentioned last week the big trade show for the video game industry. The publisher of Skyrim is Bethesda. Is that how you say that?
Bethesda? I don't know. Bethesda? I don't know. No research.
Anyway, no research. We're not going to check. Anyway, Bethesda decided hey, we're going to put out this updated version of Skyrim for the PS4 and the Xbox One and the PC. It's going to have better graphics and all this stuff that we couldn't do when we released it on the 360 and the PS3. Great. It's going to include all the DLC, all this other stuff. Really great. For people on the PC that already owned it, right? Because there's no reason a person on the PC who owned Skyrim and all the stuff for it already would ever need to buy another version of Skyrim. You already have all the things they're going to give you. And on the PC, it looked better already, right?
Sure, and let's be clear for people that don't know, if you do play on the PC, Bethesda is one of the best companies in this aspect of it. They allow modification of their games, which
Correct.
Means that most people on PC can basically go out there and download user-generated mod packs, and most of the mod packs essentially make the game look even better and better and better if your graphics card can handle it. So if you own a PC version of the game, you can always essentially own the best looking version of that game because they allow it to be modified.
Right. So people will create new quests, even things that didn't exist in the original game, and they'll allow you to mod it in, and now you all of a sudden have this extra wealth of content that didn't exist before.
Now the new version on PlayStation and Xbox will also, once they come out, allow you to download modifications as well.
They say, right? Who knows? I don't know. It's because there's so many things that you can do with modifications, right? You can do all sorts of legally questionable things, let's say. For instance, stealing assets from other games and modding them into Skyrim. Like, I saw one that turned all the dragons into Macho Man Randy Savage. I don't know why someone wanted to do that, but they did. And so, then the dragon would come up to you, instead of roaring like a dragon, it would yell, snap into a Slim Jim. I have a feeling that one isn't going to come to consoles, right? That seems like that would be something they wouldn't want to do.
Well, so you're thinking they would curate it or something?
Yes, yeah. They would let there'd be some kind of curated test, and then, if you pass like a very low bar, they would let you through. But you don't get everything, right? Because you can't have, blatant pornography or blatant, theft of content on, because the platform holders won't allow that. Anyway, so Bethesda decided, okay, we're going to release this thing. And for the PC people who don't really need it, if you already own all this stuff, we'll give you the upgraded version for free. And that's really nice, right? You get this upgraded, stuff, or the upgraded version of this game from the publisher directly for free if you already own all the parts of that game. Well, that's great. So during the Steam sale, everyone's with this in mind is like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this game and all the pieces of content for it so that I can get this upgraded version for free down the road. But Andrew, the game is discounted heavily, but all the extra pieces, the DLC that you need, the price cut's very low. It's very expensive to buy all the pieces. A lot more than it was the last Steam sale.
And there's no Game of the Year edition yet for this game, right?
No, they removed the Game of the Year edition. The only way to buy it now is piecemeal.
Whoa.
Yes. And they raised the prices on the DLC that used to be, I think the base price of the DLCs when it came out were like $15, and then they lowered the price over time so that the base price was like $10, like $9.99.
Mm-hmm.
And now the base price went back to $14.99. And then it's, 50% discount, Andrew. Well, man, 50% discount off 10 sure would be better than 50% discount off 15. So, there's a little bit of like shifty practices going on. And I feel like this, I don't want to completely throw this publisher under the bus, Bethesda, even though this is a crappy thing that they're doing. Other publishers have done this too. And like right before Steam sales, they'll raise the price of their game so that then when they offer a discount, it's like, 75% off. Even though before it was like, it's like, it was $20 before, and then they raise the price to $50, and then they sell it for $15. And it's like, look at this huge discount we're giving you. It's like, no, that's not actually a huge discount, dude. You raise the price, and then you're now selling it for like $3 cheaper. That's not really, it's kind of unfair marketing practices, to be honest with you. So I wanted to shed light on that just because I saw it and it seemed really bad, and I don't want people to do stuff like that anymore.
I'll have to check and see what I own, but that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it's a big
Especially
bummer.
Given that there's really no clear definition of what they're going to be providing for this upgraded quote-unquote version of the game.
Yeah, so of course, they're not under any obligation to give anyone anything for free.
Right.
Right? They're a company, a business. They want to make money. So the fact that they're doing this out of, quote, the goodness of their hearts, which I assume is not out of the goodness of their hearts. I'm sure there's some business reason they want you to do that. Maybe they want to start charging for mods now, Andrew.
How would they charge? Oh, because they could put out their own mods.
Yeah.
Okay.
All mods would have to go through them. And then, now they can take a cut of, in theory, money that would be paid for these mods.
Wow.
I don't know.
Gatekeepered mods. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, it's just a little situation, a tempest in a teacup, if you will.
What does that mean?
It's a little big deal about something that's not that important.
I feel like is that just the internet writ large?
Yes. Yeah, probably. Actually, yes. Uh-huh. Yep, that's what it is.
Well, did you have any other thoughts on Steam?
No, I think people should use it. It's pretty good. It's a good place to buy digital games if you want to play some awesome games.
Yeah, if you haven't looked at it, check it out.
And you can get some games for hella cheap, man.
If you are into or are willing to put in time to indie games, a lot of people won't try something that's not a AAA title. And by AAA title, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
People out there like, Assassin's Creed is a AAA title.
Or it's like a blockbuster, right?
Blockbuster titles,
big money,
Call of Duty.
Big, expensive production values. It's like the difference between seeing like an art house movie and like a Michael Bay movie, right? Like there's a lot of money spent on the one and not maybe on the other one.
And just like a Michael Bay movie, there are many people that only watch Michael Bay movies.
That's right.
And there are some of us that don't watch many Michael Bay movies until they're on the internet for free.
Or $5.
Or $5. But if you're into trying, and I suggest people look into things like I don't know.
Civilization 5. You could buy that game for not a lot of dollars and
All right,
spend
hold on.
a lot of time.
Civ is a AAA title, but there are plenty out there that are not, like Dust or Limbo or
Limbo is a great game.
Fez. Many titles that are platformers like Super Meat Boy.
Oh, Super Meat Boy is a really good game too. Yeah, people should play that one.
That you can find curated lists of through Steam or through other, review sites. We're not a review site, so maybe someday we'll give a list of things people should try. If people are interested in that, hit us up on Twitter or email or whatever, and maybe we'll do a quick episode on that sort of thing. Maybe we'll do one anyway because we might run out of ideas.
Or someone can just ask us and we'll give you our opinions.
Yeah. It's a great platform for trying that stuff out because even now during sales, games that I maybe already own are things like 80% off of $10. So go try a game that'll take you 20 hours to beat for $2. I think that's better than a movie.
That's for dollar to entertainment hour ratio, it is for sure.
I have one Steam related story.
Okay. I have a story related to indie platformers, but we'll hear yours first.
Have you heard of I think he's a representative. We're going to head back to last week and talk about some political corruption without being political.
Oh, good.
A representative, I'm not sure which party, but his name is Duncan Hunter.
Oh. I actually think he might be the representative of my parents' district.
He is known as the vaping representative because he's always caught on camera vaping in Congress.
This person sounds like the worst. Who elected him?
He's a real winner. You should look up a picture of him.
Okay, hold on. I'll do it. Keep talking. It's fine.
So I guess, he's a fan of the Steam sale as well, JJ.
Uh-huh. Oh, this guy looks like a tool. Oh, wow. Here's a picture of him. Okay, and he's vaping. Wow. This guy. Okay. Yeah. What a great.
It was reported a few months ago to the Union Tribune that he was under investigation by the Campaign Finance Committee for roughly $1,600 charged to his campaign donation credit card that he uses to take money out of his account for Steam games.
What? Okay, so he was buying games with money donated to his re-election campaign?
Correct.
Is he letting constituents play them?
He has been a vocal supporter of video games in the past, but when asked about it, was originally used the excuse that it was a product of harmless errors and possibly stolen credit card numbers, then revised his story to say that his son accidentally got hold of his credit card and bought $1,600 worth of games on it.
$1,600? That's a lot of video games.
He then went on to be under investigation for $5,600 other dollars that he had to account for and has since paid back to his campaign finance fund.
Okay. So that sounds like he was straight up embezzling it and got caught.
Oh, no. I'm sure there was an excuse for every single thing, but it's nice to know that your representatives are all fans of video games and Steam sales as well, I guess, huh?
Hey, you want to elect people that are like you, but in theory slightly less corrupt than this guy, I guess. Wow. That's pretty funny, actually.
I can't fault him for liking Steam and Steam sales, but come on, guy, use your noodle. All right, what's your platformer story? I'm out of funny jokes about congressmen for the next week.
Okay. I recently played a demo for an independent-ish platformer.
Should we describe what a platformer is?
I feel like it's Mario. You jump and you do stuff.
Okay.
In fact, this game actually isn't quite just a platformer. It is from a Kickstarter that I backed a while ago. Kickstarter, if people don't know, is a website where you can pay money to fund various ventures, such as video games, art, music, whatever. I happened to fund this video game a while back. The name of the game is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is a weird title until you find out that it is made by the same man who made the Castlevania series. His name is Iga, I-G-A, and I don't remember his first name.
But he's one of those one-name guys, right?
He goes by Iga, that's correct, yeah. But people sort of think of him as like the father of the Castlevania series. And this game is a Castlevania-like. In fact, a lot of people would call that genre of games a Metroidvania, because it's similar in some ways to the games Super Metroid and Metroid, and then also Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which Bloodstained Ritual of the Night sure sounds a lot like, doesn't it?
It sounds enough like it that he probably had to go through a little bit of legal rigmarole.
Or that he purposefully chose a name that had the same cadence and then just kind of did some different stuff with it, right? Anyway.
I don't know, he's missing one syllable. It should have been Bloodstained-ya.
Yeah, I suppose. But he doesn't own the Castlevania franchise, so he couldn't do that, right? When he left the company that makes Castlevania to go do his own thing, he was not allowed to take that name.
There's a lot of these old school guys that are either leaving or getting kicked out of their companies. Kojima just got kicked out of
Konami.
Konami.
Well, actually, do you know who owns Castlevania, Andrew?
Probably Konami.
It's Konami, yep.
So what's the deal with Konami? We'll get back to Bloodstained in a minute, but I'm not fully up to date on the Konami saga. Are they just headed straight down the tube?
Well, Konami is a company that used to make a lot of video games. They were a video game publisher. In addition, they also own a series of health and wellness spas in Japan, and also a good number of pachinko parlors in Japan, Andrew.
What is a pachinko parlor?
A pachinko parlor is a place where Japanese businessmen, I suppose women also would go to play pachinko, which is like a slot machine, but legal in Japan. It's not quite a slot machine. There's metal balls, and you shoot them up along a track, and you try and... Have you ever seen The Price is Right? You know, Plinko, where you drop the thing from the top and it bounces down a bunch of pegs?
No. I'm not one of those people that was able to stay home enough and watch that.
Okay, well, the people out there know what The Price is Right is about. They've seen Plinko. They know what I'm talking about. So Pachinko is like that, except there's a bunch of pegs and a bunch of slots at the bottom. You get them in the right slots, stuff happens.
Is it like pinball?
Yeah, but you don't have as much control.
No tilt, huh?
Yeah. And then you launch these tiny little metal balls, like ball-bearing size metal balls. And you launch a whole bunch of them, and then you win somehow. Anyway, it's gambling. Well, it's not gambling, but it's gambling, right? Because in Japan, gambling is illegal, but you win these balls, then you take the balls to the store across the street that's owned by the Yakuza, and they give you money for the balls. It's like a really dumb system in Japan, but this is legal.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know that they're all owned by the Yakuza, by the way, but they probably...
Well, some of them are owned by Kojima, I guess. Or Konami.
They probably are, yes. So anyway, Konami owns all these diverse business interests, and then also this video game stuff. But the video game stuff sort of has been doing less good in recent years for a lot of various reasons. Who knows? And they look at like the return on investment on this video game stuff, and then this pachinko stuff, and the other things. They're like, well, we're just going to stop investing in this video game stuff because this costs more money than we get out of it, right? Maybe they don't lose money, but they're not making a ton of money compared to like pachinko and some of these other things where the margins are like super high, or like mobile games, right?
So they're kind of like they were in the same bed as Capcom. They made their mint in the 80s and then completely fell off as a video game producer, and then Capcom has a little bit rebounded, but it sounds like Konami just gave up.
Right, because they have other stuff they can do that makes them more money, right? So they're not incentivized to work on the thing that is making them less. And so, yeah, basically Konami doesn't make video games anymore, it seems. They've sort of, a lot of their creative talent has left them because they want to make video games, and they're not making video games there. And rather than work on the mobile port of like the 15th game from their past like 40 years ago to yet a different Android phone or a new iPhone, rather than do that, they're like, screw this, we're going to go work for ourselves and make the games our own way. And so that has sort of been what has happened to Konami over the years. Kojima being the most high profile one, the creator of the Metal Gear series. And this guy, Iga, the creator of the Castlevania series. Or I don't know if he's the creator, but he's sort of the head guy of that series for a long time.
All right, so how was Bloodstained?
So, Bloodstained is a lot like one of my favorite games that I mentioned before, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And Bloodstained Ritual of the Night certainly plays a lot like that game, and that is a good thing.
Are you up to giving the people some history on Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
Sure. Yeah, it came out in the PS1 days. It was a 2D side-scrolling game where you controlled ostensibly Alucard, who is the son of Dracula.
Alucard is Dracula backwards.
Whoa, my mind is blown.
PS1 games.
Yeah. Look, the lore isn't... There is lore, but it's like not that deep. Anyway, you run around through this giant castle, and you're trying to kill Dracula, because he's back, because Dracula comes back every so often, and you gotta kill him.
Now, as the son of Dracula, did they ever explain why you wanted to kill Dracula, or just because you're the son of Dracula?
Yes. Do you want me to give spoilers for a quite old game at this point?
I don't think I ever beat Symphony of the Night, so I want a spoiler. So
Andrew, man, you should play that game. It's so good.
Is it still worth my time?
I play that game more often than I should.
Yearly?
Yes, at least.
Whoa. All right.
It's a good game. It doesn't take that long to beat once you know what you're doing.
Should I wait? Should I find out? Is it that good of a reveal, or because I kind of want to just know?
It's not that good of a reveal. I don't know.
Let's just do it. Just tell me what happens.
So Alucard's mother is human. Humans burned her at the stake for being a witch because she gave birth to Alucard, with Dracula. And she told him, as she was being burned alive, to don't hate the humans and to stop her husband. I guess they weren't really married. I don't know. His father.
Tap dancing around rape, probably.
Yeah, I imagine the game in Japan probably has some rape words, or maybe not that exact word, but heavily implied. It's completely ignored in the US version, but it probably is there. I mean, how does Dracula get women in general, right? He hypnotizes them and then does what he wants because he's Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. He hypnotizes them.
Look, Dracula's really evil, okay? Like, I'm not trying to justify it and say that he's like good or something, or that it was a good thing that he did this.
I don't think you ever implied that.
Yeah, that's right, I didn't.
Alucard basically wants revenge for what happened to his human mother on Dracula because...
Right, and also Dracula is bad, and you should stop Dracula in general.
Sure. Okay. I mean, they could definitely, in this day and age, throw in more stuff than they were probably allowed to at that point in time.
Yeah, I would go ahead and say that even though I make it sound like there's a story in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, there isn't really. You get like 1 or 2 cutscenes every so often, and it's pretty much you just running around killing monsters. I
know that Castlevania is constantly listed as one of the best games, and it's definitely a game I'm going to try, because I think that I should.
Specifically, this one, Symphony of the Night. Castlevania, there are many, many Castlevania games. We're talking specifically about Symphony of the Night, or Soten.
So, Symphony of the Night, I know is an amazing game. I haven't played it all the way through. I will, to appease you and probably everyone that is upset at me. But if the story is sucky, then why is it one of the best games ever?
So, the reason it's so good is because of the feel. Like, the way the game controls, the fun it is to just move around and to attack and to, explore this giant castle is the part that's great about that game. The feel of when you press the jump button, how high he'll jump, and if you hold it down, he'll jump a little bit higher, or you can press a button to have him do a little backdash to dodge out of the way of an attack coming down at you. You can sort of slide backward a couple feet. You have all kinds of different weapons that you can attack with. So there's Alucard uses a sword mostly, so there are a whole bunch of different swords with different effects. There are axes which come down in a different way. There's the standard Castlevania sub-weapons, which are people that have played Castlevania games will know. You'll throw like an axe and a little arc, or you'll throw out a dagger, or you can drop some holy water, which, works pretty good against vampires and those kind of guys. It's sort of the myriad number of ways that you can control your character. And then later, you gain the ability to turn into a bat, which is a thing a vampire can do, right? Or a wolf, or you gain the form of mist, and then you get powers that can upgrade these things. You gain powers like you can learn to double jump, you can gain powers of like flying, and there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff that you can do in that game. And just as you go around and incrementally get stronger and stronger and stronger, the game it feels so good.
This is kind of revolutionary stuff in a PS1 game, I assume, for it to be that kind of a deep a building experience, one that kind of like slowly crescendos. You know, you don't have everything at the outset like you do in every platformer before that. You know, like Mega Man, you gain a new gun, but that's kind of it.
Right. Well, so this is sort of, if people have ever played Metroid or Super Metroid very specifically, right, that game, you start off with just a little gun, and then you go around, oh, now you get a missile. Oh, now you can get to a lot of places you couldn't get before. Oh, and now you get this thing that lets you roll up into a ball, so you can get to little places you couldn't before. This game has a lot of those sort of mechanics, but then also bolted on with this sort of Mega Man style stuff where, like, oh, you can equip new shields, and the shields have some abilities, and you can use them to block attacks like you couldn't do that before. Or you get this different sword, and the sword attacks at a different speed, and it allows you to hit enemies farther away. Oh, now you can double jump. You can reach ledges and areas of the castle you couldn't get to before. Now you can turn into a bat and literally fly. There's a whole bunch of places you can get to now because you couldn't get there before, because there was a giant pit that you couldn't jump over. That sort of exploration and discovery, along with sort of the RPG systems of like killing enemies and leveling up and getting more hit points and that kind of stuff, is the fun part of that game.
That's pretty cool. I'm excited to try it.
And so Bloodstained seems to be following very closely in a lot of those footsteps. Again, this is just a demo for a game that is not out yet. It's just one level, or it seems to be, and it is pretty good. A lot of the things that I liked about Symphony of the Night seem to be present in this game also. The character, down to the stuff where, like, she can backdash those couple feet, like, by pressing one button to slide backwards, which is a thing you could do in Symphony. And, you know, she has different weapons, right? At one point you get a sword, and later you get kung fu shoes. You, like, kick people, and she has a kick animation, right? That's different than the sword animation. They do different amounts of damage, because one has a higher attack value. The enemies will drop coins, right? And you can't do anything with the coins in the demo, or I didn't find anything to do with them. But presumably, like in Symphony, you can spend them on stuff, new armor, new weapons, maps of the castle, videos that teach you how to exploit the weaknesses of the bosses, stuff like that. And it has that feeling of like being really close to being a really, really awesome game. So I'm super excited for it.
So 2 questions then. A, is it just a reskin of an old game, or are they going to try and do new stuff with it? Have they talked about that? And B, given that it's just a kind of like such a referential game, how are they going to drag in new gamers to this so that it's not just DOA after the Kickstarter? Good
question. I don't know about the answer to the second one. I can't speak to their plans for marketing or anything. But it is an unconnected game, so it will tell an entire story, they say, from the beginning, because they have to introduce all the characters and the world and all that stuff, so they're going to have to do that world building with you. So if you want to start at the beginning, this would be the beginning. So that's beneficial to new players.
Absolutely. That's great to know that it's a new beginning for someone like me that maybe doesn't know all the Castlevania stuff. I knew who Alucard was, right? I knew the general history of Castlevania, having been a gamer, so that I could talk with other people about it, but I don't know everything. I didn't play all the games all the way through. I don't have that background. So knowing that I don't need to know anything going into this game, other than it's going to feel like the other games, but it's not connected entirely, other than fan service, is probably a great new beginning. That's cool.
Yeah, and it seems a lot like they at least recognize that issue. Castlevanias in general seemed to be relatively distinct from each other. They didn't carry a lot of that lore forward. But, you know, fans of the series would have a leg up on people who didn't, right? Sort of I hesitate to use the word magic, but it is sort of like magic in this game. System is kind of new. So there is some stuff that's different from how those other games were. You sort of get these crystals from either defeating specific enemies or randomly from certain ones. It wasn't clear to me exactly how you obtained the various crystals that you find in the demo. But the crystals allow you to do stuff like I could shoot fire out of my hand, or shoot a splash of water, or some of them would upgrade your stats so you would have some bonus, defense and stuff like that. So that's sort of that was something that was not in the original game. There were these crystals, although I'm told by people it's similar to some stuff that they did in the DS Castlevanias, of which that were on the Nintendo DS, that I have not played. So I don't know that I have the whole story with regards to those. It was new to me, and I thought it was cool. And the boss at the end of the demo is really cool. Another fun thing about Castlevania and these sort of games is the boss fights are always really different from the rest of the game. Each of the bosses is kind of unique and will do something a little bit different than all the other enemies. They'll have crazy attacks, or they'll be gigantic, or there'll be some interesting facet to each boss. And that may remain the same for this also, which I thought was cool.
Well, it just tends to be a platformer thing.
Yeah, you want to make the boss encounters feel really cool. They're like really different from just running around and jumping and hitting stuff, because you're doing that the rest of the time. That's my experience. Bloodstained, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. I believe it will be on Steam, since I got the demo through Steam, so.
Awesome. Well, I didn't really get a ton of time to get further into other games other than trying to kick some more time into Bravely Default. So I was actually out of town all weekend and a little bit of last week doing some wine tasting in Paso Robles, which was awesome. Yeah, it was really fun.
Can you give me like a quick rundown of places you went, or maybe just the highlights?
Oh boy. Yeah, if you're ever up there, and if anybody out there that likes wines, J. Ducey wine, Epoch.
Yeah.
A lot of people say Epoch, but Epoch apparently is how you say it.
Oh, did you ask them?
It's on the wall. It's literally written there how to pronounce it.
That's good to know. I have also been there, and I liked them also. It was very good.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun. And I think my standout is always Justin Vineyards.
Yeah, they're great.
Which is amazing, but they're real pricey.
Yeah,
it's amazing how much people can charge for wine these days.
I didn't want to say anything, and I'm glad you brought it up. I think they overcharge.
Well, it's systemic. I don't think it's just them.
Okay,
you could own a winery that I've never heard of and charge $35 for a white, and nobody would blink an eye at it, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I would blink an eye at that price.
Most people don't.
I better be loving that. That better be one of the best whites I've ever tasted.
You and I are a little more frugal in nature.
Yeah.
Given our new home ownership, we have to be. So,
yes.
We tasted a lot, and we were there with family, and it was a great time, but we didn't come home with a ton of wine. We came home with a responsible amount, I think. But it was fun.
Under 2 cases.
Oh, way under.
Under a case?
Yes.
Under half a case?
Yes.
Do you want to just tell me how many bottles?
4.
Okay.
4, and it was kind of funny. It ended up being a white, a rosé, a red, and a dessert wine. For those of you that don't like or know anything about wine, we could always do a wine episode.
Maybe. I like wine.
It's part of being an adult, I think, is learning. You don't have to drink to be an adult. I'm not saying that. I'm saying talking about entertainment and amusement, I guess. And one of the things that JJ and I enjoy, and you'll probably have to hear about, is wine and beer.
That's right.
I think you're even drinking a beer right now, right?
I do have a beer with me right now.
What is it?
Are we going to talk about what the beer I'm drinking is?
Jay, that was a lead-in for you to tell me what you were drinking.
Man, I'm bad at video games, and I'm also bad at podcasting. So I am drinking an IPA made by Ballast Point. It is Sculpin.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's a standard.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
We also, I was asking you about your beer because I was going to tell you we also tasted 17 beers at Firestone Walker Brewing, which is in Paso Robles.
That's a lot.
Well, there were 8 of us, so we,
Oh, like little sips, okay.
Yeah, and then there's a new brewery up there called Barrel House Brewing, which we tried out. Young, and their beers taste young and inexperienced, but good. They'll be good.
I had a good time. I think, is that the one that I sent you to?
Yeah, with the outdoor patio.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was fun. It was a really good time. We stayed in an Adobe, which people probably don't care about any of this stuff, but I'm telling you anyway because I just got back from doing it.
It's our podcast, man. We can do whatever we want.
That's true, and we haven't had a chance to catch. I literally, people, just so you know, drove in 3.5 hours ago from Paso and got on this podcast thing after putting the baby to bed. So it's still fresh on the mind.
Hashtag dedication.
Hashtag. I'm done with hashtagging. We'll get into that in the future. It makes my mouth feel dirty.
It does have an air of corporate cynicism to it.
I feel like I need to brush my teeth now after hashtagging things.
I feel like every time I say it, I'm doing it ironically.
I hope you're doing it ironically.
Yeah, I am.
Well, anyway, it was a fun weekend of wine tasting, and I didn't get much in because we were hanging with family. So I played a little bit of Bravely Default and
Cool.
worked my way through some more acquisitions of what they don't call them jobs in that game, but I got some more side quests for jobs and almost to the water crystal boss. So
is that the fourth crystal or the third crystal?
Second crystal.
Second
boss.
crystal. Okay.
Yeah. I got to move a little faster.
Maybe you're eventually going to catch up to enemies that are your level.
Yeah, exactly right, and then I'll be able to level a little faster. Anyway, still a fun game, still enjoy it, but yeah, that's pretty much all I was able to get through this weekend with the trip.
I played a little bit of Diablo 3 again, as
nice.
Been kind of chipping away at it. Andrew, I think I've solved our problem, or I have a solution for our problem with Diablo 3.
All right, what is it?
We have been stuck on this season journey thing with these big, difficult achievements. I think I know how we can do at least one of them.
We haven't been stuck entirely. You and I both managed to get through the roadblock of the set dungeon. Having been away, you were able to chip away at some levels without me, but I think we both, now that I'm back, are ready to tackle the rest of this season and just get it out of the way.
These conquests, these big achievements you have to get through, I think I know how we can do one of them. One of the achievements is to kill every boss in the game within 20 minutes of starting the game.
Act 5 as well?
All the bosses, yes, Act 5 as well.
Okay. I've seen a list of these bosses and an order, but I didn't look too far into it or test it.
So the post, I was reading a post on the internet, surprisingly. I know. Where would I get ideas like this?
The Tempest in a Teapot.
Yeah, exactly. And they had, again, I think it was probably a very similar list to the one you were reading. And they broke it down, and they gave sort of the idea of how you should run it. So, hey, here's the order. Break it up among... So, doing multiple people is super beneficial to you. It's possible to do it by yourself, but having more people makes it, they say, a lot easier.
Do we solo the bosses?
No, you cannot solo the bosses. Everyone has to be present for every boss.
Okay.
So you will do the trick that you and I have discovered, or we didn't discover it, but we know about.
I think that you and I didn't look it up. I think we figured it out. But other people had probably figured it out ahead of us.
Correct, yeah. So it's this...
When you fight a boss in Diablo 3, it instances the boss. So you have to accept an invitation to go into the boss room.
Right.
And when you do that, you are instantly teleported there from wherever you are in the game. And if you do not have a town portal active from that position, you will not be able to get back there.
After you kill the boss, right, it'll give you a way to get back to town, but not back to wherever you were. So the key that they say is everyone starts, split all the bosses up among all the people you have, right? In a certain priority, and there's a whole list of the things. Anyway, split the bosses up. Everyone run to the first boss. When you get to the boss, don't activate it yet. Teleport back to town and wait. The last person to get to a boss activates the boss. Everyone who wasn't with that person goes straight to the boss, right? We all kill the boss in a very short amount of time, and then the people who had their portals open already in town use the method that we were talking about where you can go back to town without opening a new portal, and then everyone goes through their portal and fights another boss immediately. And then everyone does the same thing and goes through the next portal and fights that boss immediately. And so you do these bosses bam, 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 bam. Then everyone goes and splits up and finds the next set of bosses and repeats this over and over.
Until you finish. How many bosses do we have to kill in 20 minutes?
I don't remember. It's quite a few. But it's totally doable. I tried this by myself just on a lark because I was bored this past weekend. Again, it only takes 20 minutes at the max, right?
Right.
And I, by myself, got through 3/4 of the bosses.
Oh, so we can do this no problem with 3 people.
Yeah, I was running, moving fast. I wasn't stopping to pick up anything, not fighting anyone, nothing. Just blink, 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 blink. And it totally could be done with multiple people so much faster. And now that I know that there's an order out there, like the ones that you should kill first or last or whatever, that would probably help a lot too. So I think if 2 or 3 of us get together, we could knock this out real easy, I think.
Okay, and once we complete that and one other conquest, you and I are done.
Yeah, we can just say later to this thing.
Let's do it. Let's do it tonight.
Yeah, maybe we'll give that a shot later on.
Well, I think people got a kind of an interesting glimpse maybe into why we called this show We Were Gamers tonight, because we talked about everything from wine tasting to PS1 classics like Castlevania and looking at the future, and we even got philosophical about digital sale release platforms.
I know, right?
So, adults playing games and not only playing them, but thinking about them.
And Andrew, if people wanted to hear more of us talking about this stuff, where would they go to do that?
You could go to iTunes or Google Play and look for the podcast We Were Gamers. You could get a hold of us and ask us to do or talk about other things at We Were Gamers on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Or you could even email us at podcasts@weweregamers.com, because we have weweregamers.com. And on weweregamers.com/podcast, you could look up old podcasts if you want to, with descriptions and everything.
Read about what you're going to hear about before you hear it.
Yeah, and if something sounds interesting to you, or we glanced over something you want to hear more about, get a hold of us. Or tell us to do a top 10 list. We don't review things, but we'll tell you what we like.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Andrew, that's JJ, and this was We Were Gamers.
Bye, everybody.